safe to travel to Egypt? Hi everyone, and thank you for watching this video. It's not necessarily a video that I wanted to do or makes me happy doing, but when I tell people about being into Egypt and dancing in Egypt, this is usually the first question they ask me is whether it is safe. So I'm putting together this video for you because I think it's important that you know what kind of situations you might be and how you might feel if you're in Egypt. The other thing is that I'm not an expert on the politics of Egypt or the security of Egypt. I can only tell you how I felt and my experiences when I was there. So Egypt. It's a beautiful country, it really is, and I've been there many times, so obviously I enjoy it a lot. So my first trip to Egypt was in 2011, and it was just after the revolution. I was there in June, and people said to me since 2007, if there's ever a big tourist group, that it will be escorted when it goes around for safety because of the problems that happened in 2007. So I was part of a big festival while I was there, and whenever we moved around, the bus was always escorted by the police. I didn't have any problems when I was in Egypt in my first visit. I found that actually people after the revolution had a lot of energy and a lot of momentum about the country, and when I was traveling on public buses or trains, people wanted to talk to me because I guess I might have looked like a foreigner, and as soon as they found out where I was from, for them it was like an opportunity to share, okay, this is what's happening in our country. If I tell this girl what's happening, she'll go back to Australia and she'll share it with her friends, which is of course what I did. The other thing with these stories that I found very interesting was that what I heard and people's impressions of the revolution was so different, compared between individuals, compared between different parts of the country. And I think it's very difficult to trust the news in this sense because if people themselves in the country haven't got an exact stance on what was going on and what was happening, it's very difficult for foreign media who might not be experts on the culture or in the language as well, and they weren't necessarily there when everything's happening. It's very, very hard to trust news in terms of what's going on. So when I was there in 2011, yes, I felt this great energy about everything that was happening. And did I feel safe? So when I was there, I was pretty conservatively dressed. I was wearing my sleeves past my elbow, but nothing much longer, and I felt fine. You do have to stand up for yourself if you're a female traveling by yourself. It was my first time to the country, so even though I've been studying dance, it's part of its culture for a long time, the modern day culture was very different. I didn't have anything bad that happened to me except for one incident, and it was from one person and one person only, and I could tell by the look in this person's eyes that they weren't well, they weren't a healthy person, so I don't think you can judge a whole country by that one person. But basically this person was following me, but what I will say is that as soon as people realized I was in trouble, they were extremely quick to help. So I've been told if you go like that, it means go away, and it's quite aggressive. And so when this man kept following me, I was going like this, and other people saw, and there were these two young men who saw what was happening, and they were very quick to help me. They made sure this man wasn't following anymore. I had another person who ordered a taxi for me that would be safe, and the taxi took me back to where I was staying. And I think that's the thing that I learned about the culture in Egypt in my first trip there, was that people are very warm. So people might have this kind of tough exterior, but inside they're very warm. And one thing I love about this country is that beautiful things happen pretty much every single day. They're little chance things that are so heartwarming and just make you feel really happy that it does actually impact your whole experience of the country. So the next time I was there, I went in, I'll go back to 2011. When I was still there in 2011, I did do a cruise down the Nile as well. It was beautiful. And then I think I quite naively went to the Sinai Peninsula. And this is something that I probably wouldn't recommend doing at the moment. I know the Australian government website says that you shouldn't travel there. When I was there in 2011, this was before they were saying not to travel there. I was on a bus and our luggage and our whole bus and everything was checked multiple times. I think it was maybe 7 times. For a bus ride that's not so long. I was going to Mount Sinai, St. Catherine Monastery, which was absolutely beautiful, also known as Moses Mountain. So I'm really happy I went. But if I'd known what it would be like, I probably wouldn't have gone. And people afterwards told me that the reason why there were so many checks is because that was where the main gas pipeline was from Egypt to Israel, and obviously there are a lot of issues there as well. So possibly don't go there. Now, in 2012, I went along the Red Sea. Some of the resorts around the Red Sea, you can wear whatever you want. It's very safe. Everything's very controlled. And that trip, I wasn't in Egypt as long. Actually, I was in the Red Sea area for about a week or 10 days, and there was nothing wrong there. But then when I was in Cairo for about another month or so. And I felt safe, but on days where there were protests, I was told to stay at home. And I think when I was there at that time as well, my Arabic teacher said to me, don't go out, make sure you have enough food for yourself. And the place I was staying, everyone else went out, but I didn't. But I did hear gunshots outside my window as part of the protest. And that made me feel really on edge because it was something I wasn't used to hearing. But apparently now it's quite commonplace in Cairo, and it's not necessarily something of aggression. It's just a sound. It's not that people were shooting at each other. It was just that they were firing the guns up into the air. Now, I know it sounds a bit strange me telling all these stories as a foreigner who doesn't necessarily have the insight into the culture of Egypt, but the reason why I'm sharing it with you is because if you're going as a foreigner, these are some of the things you might come up against and also how you may feel. The other thing in terms of security, when I was there in 2011, I was going into a hotel in Cairo, and it was a very nice hotel. I was staying there with a friend just for a few days. And the security guard, when he put my bag through the security, he put up a picture and he said to me, oh, what's this in your bag? And as a practical joke, he had a photo of a gun in my bag. And so, of course, on the x-ray, it was a photo of the gun. So it looked like there was a gun in my bag. And my heart was pounding so fast, you can't imagine. But for him, he thought it was hilarious. And while I was having my heart beating really quickly and couldn't settle down for the rest of the day in shock and also fear because I thought someone had planted a gun in my bag. He thought it was a really funny joke. So yeah, be careful of security guards in hotels around Cairo. So then after that, of course, I was there last year, and I was there for most of the year. And the thing that I found very different was that it was almost like people had lost hope of the revolution. They had things happen that had really big losses, and it was almost like, okay, well, is this worth it? Like, are all these losses worth it? I mean, I can't say it's such a horrible situation to be in, and it's such a beautiful country, and there's such beautiful people that, I mean, what can you do other than really, I don't know, feel sorry for the people who have to go through this in their country, and also feel blessed of the countries we're in where we do have freedom. So when I was there last year, again, it would depend where you were. So around the Red Sea area where I was very safe. There was one incident that I know the foreign news, they said that it had been a terrorist attack with knives, but apparently it was more of a feud between two people, which I know maybe doesn't make it sound any better, but the fact was that the security guards were able to stop it quickly, but still someone was bringing a knife into a hotel with the purpose of hurting somebody. Security is everywhere in Egypt now, I've found. So on the Red Sea, there's lots of security checks. In Cairo, there's barbed wire up a lot. There's a lot of police checks. When I was staying in Cairo, again, naively, I was staying in a hotel that was a nice hotel, lovely people and everything, but they had checks every time I went to the street. And afterwards, my friend said to me, oh, next time probably don't stay there, because it was near the building of defence, so that's why the checks were so strong. And one thing they do is they check all the cars, and they'll open the cars, and then they have a mirror to put underneath the car just to check if you've got anything under your car. I've seen this check done many times, and even though it is good, it's definitely good to have checks in place, and it's probably a deterrence from things happening. The checks aren't very strong. Basically, the checks aren't as thorough as they could be. They're not as thorough as they are in other countries, and even though the people who are there as security would help you quickly if something were to go wrong, I don't know if I'd have faith in them preventing something happening. So saying that, I would go back to Egypt. I felt very safe while I was there, but these were some of the things that I saw, and also the things that I had to think about while I was in the country. I think the other thing is as well, compared between the first time I was there and when I was there last year, is that the way you dress is also changed. So I know when I was there on my first trip, if I was showing my wrist, it wouldn't be an issue. If I had a neckline like down to here, it wouldn't be any problem. But I found after that, if I was showing even this much of my skin, people would stare. So I'd wear full long sleeves whenever I was in Cairo, and also necklines like up to here. You wouldn't feel comfortable, or at least I didn't feel comfortable with anything like showing any skin here at all. The other thing is the government is rebuilding, so the airport is being rebuilt. Before this, the country had been in decay for a long time, like buildings were crumbling, nothing had been painted, nothing had been maintained for 50, 60 years. So now it's great to see that things are being rebuilt, which will obviously help the economy, help jobs, help development as well, if you're building infrastructure that will help the country too. Yes, so these are some of the things that I felt when I was in Egypt in terms of my own safety. As I said, I was there by myself. I was there for almost all of last year, and I was there for several trips from 2011 till then as well. So I just want to say that the question of is it safe to travel to Egypt, it's a really difficult question to answer. I can tell you that while I was there, I felt safe. I didn't have any problems. I was traveling by myself. As I said, there were things that I did naively, and maybe they seem stupid looking back. But yes, if you are going to Egypt, these are some of the things you have to think about. And also, please check your government's website. They will tell you whether they think you should travel there or not. People from certain countries, it might be more difficult for you to travel. And then also, I know with everything that's been going on more recently, there's a lot of things that are unsettling. So it is a beautiful country. I really believe that people should travel there at least once in their lifetime just to see the culture. It's really interesting. And also to say things like the pyramids and the Valley of the Kings, it's incredible. Like, it puts humanity into perspective. But if you were going anytime and you're going by yourself, would you go now? That's a harder thing to answer. Anyway, so this is a very long answer to the question of is it safe to travel there, but these are my experiences, so I hope they've been helpful. If you've been in Egypt, or if you've recently been there, or you've travelled to Egypt in the past, I'd love to hear your stories and how you felt. And if you're planning on going, please let me know. It is a really amazing place. Thanks very much for watching.